Angela Morrison never responded to the racist comments in the courtroom, but when she struck the gavel on the table, the price of injustice was measured in millions of dollars. The Manhattan Civil Court building pulsed like the heart of New York's justice system in the early morning hours. Marble columns, high ceilings, and bronze doors carried the weight of a century-old tradition of justice. The 14th floor, Courtroom 3, would host an important discrimination case today. Judge Angela Morrison was a 45-year-old, elegantly poised black woman. Her dark brown hair was pulled into a professional bun, her brown eyes calm but determined. Throughout her 20 years of judicial experience, she had made countless difficult decisions. But today was different. She would not only be the decision-maker, but also the observed. When she entered the courtroom in her regular clothes, a simple black suit, plain bag, unpretentious shoes, no one understood who she was. Patricia Wells, a 52-year-old court clerk, frowned when she saw Angela from behind her desk. She had worked in this courthouse for 30 years and thought she knew what these types of people were usually there for. "Excuse me," Patricia said in a cold voice. "Are you a plaintiff? The hearing time hasn't come yet. You need to wait outside." Angela smiled but didn't respond. She carried her bag toward the office next to the judge's bench. "Hey," Patricia called out, raising her voice. "Are you listening to me? You can't go in there." At that moment, Richard Blackwood, a 48-year-old founding partner of the prestigious Blackwood and Associates law firm, entered the courtroom. His expensive Italian suit, gold watch, and confident walk drew attention. He had been managing one of New York's most powerful law firms for 25 years and was famous for cases he never lost. When he saw Angela, he stopped. "Who is this?" he asked Patricia, pointing at Angela. "I don't know," Patricia said angrily. "Probably from the cleaning company, but she's trying to enter the judge's chambers. Should I call security?" Richard laughed, making a metallic sound. "Cleaning? There's a hearing here. Cleaning isn't done at this hour." He walked toward Angela. "Miss, you might be in the wrong courtroom. Cleaning work is done in the evening hours." Angela turned and looked at Richard with calm eyes. "There's a misunderstanding," she said in a soft but firm voice. "What misunderstanding?" Richard asked, disdain in his voice. "This is a courtroom, not your workplace." Angela didn't respond. She entered the office and closed the door. Richard frowned. Who does this woman think she is? Where is security? James Rodriguez, a 35-year-old Hispanic security guard, approached the entrance. "Is there a problem, Mr. Blackwood?" "That woman," Richard pointed to the office Angela had entered the judge's chambers without permission. "Remove her." James hesitated. "Mr. Blackwood, maybe there's a misunderstanding. Let me check." "Misunderstanding?" Richard's voice hardened. "There's a clear violation. These types of people should know their boundaries." At this time, David Chen, a 29-year-old young Asian lawyer, entered the courtroom. David had been working at a major law firm for the past 3 years and would be following an important discrimination case today. "What's happening?" David asked. "A cleaning worker entered the judge's chambers," Patricia said. "We're trying to remove her." While David tried to understand the situation, he noticed the condescending tone in Richard's voice. "Maybe it's just the wrong room." "David," Richard silenced him. "Don't be so naive. You need to learn to recognize these types of situations. These people are opportunists." Angela came out of the office. This time she was wearing a black judicial robe, but no one noticed because she was carrying the robe on her arm. "Still here?" Patricia said angrily. "Security." James approached but treated Angela respectfully. "Ma'am, can I help you?" "Thank you," Angela said calmly. "Everything is fine." Richard couldn't stand it. "Everything is fine. You entered the judge's chambers without permission. This is a crime." "James, do your job," Richard said harshly. "Remove this woman." Angela turned toward Richard. "Mr. Blackwood, isn't it? Blackwood and Associates." Richard was surprised. "You know me?" "I know you," Angela said calmly. "You're representing the defendant in today's case." "How ... Richard hesitated. "How do you know this information?" Angela didn't respond. She began putting on her robe. Patricia's mouth hung open. Where did she get that robe?" David suddenly understood. His face paled. "Oh my God." "What?" Richard asked. She's the judge," David stammered. Silence. Deep, Heavy silence. Richard laughed, but it was now an uncertain laugh. Judge, this is impossible. The judge should be Judge Morrison, and he is me, Angela said, fastening the last button of her robe. Judge Angela Morrison. Patricia's pen fell from her hand. Richard's face went white. James bowed his head respectfully. Ma'am. Judge Morrison, James said. I apologize. Mr. Blackwood's ... No problem, James, Angela said. You were trying to do your job correctly. Richard tried to recover. Judge Morrison, there was a misunderstanding. I couldn't recognize you. Because you didn't want to recognize me, Angela said calmly but sharply. You judged me only by what you saw. Richard was sweating. I was just... Mr. Blackwood, Angela began, walking toward the judge's bench. Today will be an interesting hearing. Your client, Anderson Textiles, faces a discrimination lawsuit. The alleged crime, racial and gender discrimination. Richard's heart began beating very fast. Angela's cold demeanor frightened him. Judge Morrison, Richard said, trying to control his voice. I hope the earlier misunderstanding won't affect your case. Angela stopped, turned, and looked at Richard. Mr. Blackwood, I've been a judge for 20 years. I'm a Harvard Law graduate. Do you think I allow my personal feelings to affect my duty of dispensing justice? Of course not, Richard said quickly. I was just what? Richard couldn't answer. At 10 o'clock, the hearing began. The courtroom was full. Plaintiff Marie Johnson, a young black woman, claimed she had suffered systematic discrimination while working at Anderson Textiles. She said she couldn't get promoted or equal pay because of her race and gender at work, and was eventually fired. Angela sat on the judge's bench, her black robe radiating authority. Court is in session, she said, striking the gavel on the table. Richard stood up to defend his client, but he no longer had his previous self-assured demeanor. Angela's presence disturbed him. Your Honor, Richard said, Anderson Textiles is an established company. It categorically denies discrimination allegations. Mr. Blackwood, Angela coldly interrupted. Present your evidence, not your rhetoric. As the hearing progressed, Richard began to become increasingly aggressive, perhaps to compensate for his earlier embarrassment, perhaps due to defensive instinct. He took a harsh stance against plaintiff Marie Johnson. Ms. Johnson, Richard said during questioning, do you really think you have the appropriate qualifications for this position? Objection, said the plaintiff's attorney. Irrelevant. Objection overruled, Angela said. But Mr. Blackwood, could you clarify your question? Richard felt encouraged. Ms. Johnson, could there be other motivations behind your allegations? For instance, the desire to make easy money. Angela's brows furrowed. This question was crossing the line. Mr. Blackwood, Angela said in a warning tone, but Richard couldn't be stopped. Perhaps the earlier shock was still affecting him. Perhaps it was ego protection, but he began to become increasingly condescending. These types of lawsuits are unfortunately common, Richard said. Some people try to exploit the system. Objection. The plaintiff's attorney jumped up. Objection sustained, Angela said harshly. Mr. Blackwood, strike your statement from the record. But Richard didn't stop. Judge Morrison, might you have a special sensitivity on this matter? The courtroom froze. Everyone held their breath. Angela slowly stood up. Mr. Blackwood, could you repeat that? Richard realized he had gone too far, but he couldn't turn back now. I was just regarding objectivity. Silence, Angela said, her voice low but authoritative. Mr. Blackwood, you are now facing contempt of court. By questioning my objectivity based on my race or gender, you are exhibiting exactly the discriminatory behavior related to this case. Richard's face had paled. Judge Morrison, I didn't mean such a thing. Be quiet, Angela said. David Chen. David stood up in surprise. Yes, ma'am? Do you work at Mr. Blackwood's firm? Yes, ma'am. Do you find this behavior normal? David hesitated, then answered honestly. No, ma'am. Angela turned to Richard. Mr. Blackwood, I've been a judge for 20 years. I'm a Harvard Law graduate. I'm a former member of the New York State Bar. I'm a member of the American Law Institute. And here you are implying that I'm biased because of my race and gender. Richard couldn't say anything. Moreover, Angela continued, this morning you thought I was a cleaning worker. Now you're questioning my judgeship. Can you see the common point? Let me tell you, Angela said, the common point is prejudice. the same prejudice that Anderson Textiles is alleged to have exhibited. Angela picked up the gavel. In this case, the evidence is clear. Marie Johnson's qualifications are indisputable. The documents regarding her discrimination are clear. Moreover, the defense's attitude today shows how deeply rooted such prejudices are. Richard's voice wouldn't come out. Verdict: Anderson Textiles is found guilty of racial and gender discrimination. Marie Johnson will be paid $5 million in damages. Additionally, the company will be subject to mandatory anti-discrimination training programs. The courtroom went wild. Marie Johnson was crying. Richard was in shock. Furthermore, Angela said, "Mr. Blackwood, you are fined $50,000 for contempt of court, and an ethics violation report will be sent to the New York State Bar." Richard's knees were shaking. "Judge Morrison, please." "The court's decision is final," Angela said, striking the gavel on the table. After the hearing ended and the courtroom was emptying, David Chen approached Angela. "Judge Morrison," David said respectfully, "I learned a lot today." Angela smiled. "David, right. You're a good lawyer, but sometimes courage is needed to say what's right." "Thank you, ma'am. This was a very valuable lesson for me." James Rodriguez also approached. "Judge Morrison, I apologize for this morning's situation." "James, you were trying to do your job correctly. You never need to apologize." Patricia couldn't dare get up from her desk. Angela approached her. "Patricia, you've been working here for 30 years, haven't you?" Patricia nodded shamefully. "Then you should have learned this. We approach our justice duties colorblind. We judge people not by who they are, but by what they do." Patricia raised her eyes. "I'm sorry, Judge Morrison. I behaved very wrongly." "Patricia, we all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them." Richard finally came to Angela. His face was pale, his hands trembling. "Judge Morrison, I don't know what to say." Angela looked at him. "Richard, you're a very talented lawyer, but talent means nothing without character. Let today be a learning day for you too." This will ruin me. The bar, my firm." "Should this ruin you?" Angela asked. "Or should you focus on becoming a better person?" Richard nodded, tears in his eyes. That evening, as Angela sat in her office, she thought about the morning's events. She had been facing such situations for 20 years, but could never get used to them. Her phone rang. It was Marie Johnson. "Judge Morrison, I don't know how to thank you. Marie, you just defended your rights. I just ensured justice found its place. But today, Mr. Blackwood's attitude toward you. How did you stay so calm?" Angela smiled. "Marie, anger can prevent justice, but silent power can move mountains." A few months later, Richard Blackwood came to Angela's office. He looked different, more humble, more respectful. "Judge Morrison, I want to tell you something." "I'm listening, Richard." "A lot has changed since that day. We've implemented anti-discrimination policies at my firm. It was an awakening for me." Angela nodded. "Good to hear, Richard. So, are these changes real?" "You can test it," Richard said. 60% of our firm now consists of female and minority lawyers, and our performance has never been this good." Angela smiled. "You see, Richard, justice isn't just about punishment, it's about transformation." "One more thing," Richard said. "We hired Marie Johnson as chief legal counsel." "Now you've really changed," Angela said. As Richard walked toward the door, he turned. "Judge Morrison, when I thought you were a cleaning worker that morning, I actually wasn't wrong." Angela was surprised. "How so?" "You really were doing cleaning," Richard said, smiling. "It's just that the dirt wasn't on the floor, it was in hearts." And from that moment on, Angela Morrison became known not just as a judge, but as someone who cleaned prejudices, changed hearts, and dispensed justice with silent power, because true justice wasn't just in laws, but in the respect people showed each other.